Have you ever looked someone you grew up with, someone who shared your childhood, your secrets, your family, dead in the eye and realized they want to destroy you? My name is Cassie. I'm 29. And 4 months into the pregnancy I had prayed, cried, and bled for. My sister pushed me down a flight of stairs. Not a stranger. Not an enemy. My sister. And the worst part? My parents didn't just forgive her, they defended her. Begged me not to press charges. Told me it would ruin her future. As if she didn't already try to ruin mine. I survived that fall. My son survived. But something inside me shattered, something I don't think will ever come back. Not just my trust in them, but in the idea of what family even means. Because when your own blood spills yours to protect their favorite child, you stop asking for love, and start learning to protect yourself. I remember the moment like it's branded into my skin. My hand was on the railing, my knees already wobbling from the exhaustion of pretending I wasn't pregnant at a party I didn't want to be at. Kayla's voice was sharp behind me, drunk, bitter, cracking with something darker. You're not even really pregnant. I bet you just made it up for attention. I turned, my mouth open, trying to steady my voice, and that's when she shoved me. There was no stumble. No warning. Just the sudden drop, my body twisting in midair, arms locked around my stomach as instinct took over. The pain in my wrist didn't even register until the bottom step cracked against my ribs. Later, in the hospital, my mother whispered, "She was drunk, Cassie, she didn't mean it." But I remember how Kayla smiled as I fell. And I will never forget who caught me, and who didn't. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, overlooked, unloved, or treated unfairly just because you weren't the golden child, then this story is for you. If anything in this hits close to home, drop a 1 in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe and share it. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. Now, let me take you back to the day I realized, not everyone who shares your blood is your family. Luke and I met 6 years ago in the most ordinary way, at a bookstore, of all places. He asked if I'd recommend the novel I was holding, and by the time we left the checkout line, we'd both forgotten what the book was even about. From day one, he had this quiet steadiness about him. He didn't try to impress or overpower. He just listened, really listened, like my words mattered. We got married 3 years later, small ceremony, lots of laughter. And right away, we started trying for a family. We didn't expect it to be so hard. Month after month, test after test, I'd sit on the bathroom floor, feeling like my body had failed me. We lost 2 pregnancies, one at 6 weeks, one at 10. The second broke something inside me. I stopped decorating the nursery we'd started. I avoided baby showers. I cried when I saw women my age with strollers. Luke was my anchor. He never rushed me, never blamed me. He held me through the nights I couldn't breathe, and made me breakfast on the mornings I couldn't stand. Still, there were days I saw that flicker in his eyes, hope dimming. And I feared we'd run out of time, or faith. Just when I started preparing myself for a life without children, everything changed. It was a Tuesday, cold and gray outside, like most January mornings in Portland. I didn't think much of the test. By then, I'd stopped holding my breath. But when I picked it up and saw those 2 unmistakable pink lines, my knees gave out right there on the tiled floor. Luke found me crying in the hallway, test still in my hand. At first, he panicked. But when I handed it to him, he just stared. And then he sank down beside me, pulled me into his arms, and said nothing for a long time. Just held me, forehead to forehead, as tears soaked my shirt. We didn't scream with joy. We didn't call anyone. We just sat in the quiet, as if moving too fast would shatter the spell. After everything we'd been through, we knew better than to announce it right away. We agreed, this time, it would be our secret. Not out of shame, but protection. The world didn't get a vote. This was ours, fragile, sacred, and finally real. And we were going to keep it safe, no matter what. My younger sister Kayla had always been the one with the bright future. The one who turned heads without trying, the one my parents couldn't stop bragging about. She was vibrant, sharp, and determined to have the life she deserved, or at least the one she thought she did. Her engagement to Brandon was like a dream out of a bridal magazine. Destination venue, custom dress fittings, choreographed dances, my parents spared no expense. For months, it was all anyone in the family talked about. Kayla glowed like she was already halfway to happily ever after. Then, the night before the wedding, everything unraveled. Brandon cheated, not years into marriage, not after some slow, painful drift. No, he cheated at his bachelor party. With one of the bridesmaids. Word got back to Kayla the morning of the ceremony. He didn't even show up to explain. He sent one of his groomsmen to call it off. The devastation was total. And public. She disappeared for a while. Then, slowly, she re-emerged, not softer, not sadder, but sharper. Harder. The wedding became a chapter she didn't speak about. Instead, she poured everything into her career, long hours, non-stop promotions, glowing LinkedIn updates. She was moving up fast, and she made sure everyone knew it. But the light in her eyes had changed. And even if she never said it out loud, you could see it in the way she looked at other couples. She'd lost more than just a wedding that day. She'd lost the story she'd built her whole life around. 2 months after we found out I was pregnant, I got a call from my mom. She sounded excited, which, lately, always meant I should brace myself. "Your sister got promoted again," she beamed. "Her company's flying her to Denver next quarter. She's planning a party this weekend, just a small family thing. She really wants you to come." I felt my stomach turn. Not from morning sickness, just from the idea of being in the same room with everyone while keeping such a huge secret tucked under a carefully selected flowy dress. I hadn't been to the last few gatherings. The excuses were piling up. I knew they were starting to talk. "I don't know, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I haven't been feeling great. Long week." "Oh, honey," she sighed. "Kayla really misses you. And so do we. Just for a few hours. You don't have to stay long." I didn't want to steal Kayla's thunder, especially not after everything she'd been through. The last thing I wanted was to show up visibly pregnant and have the whole night spiral into a celebration that wasn't mine. But I also didn't want to disappoint them again. So I said yes. And that one word would change everything. The house was glowing when we pulled up, soft string lights wrapped around the porch columns, jazz humming from the backyard speakers, and the smell of grilled shrimp drifting into the night air. Kayla had gone all out. Again. Luke squeezed my hand gently as we stepped out of the car. "We'll stay for an hour. 2, max. You give me the signal, and we're out. Deal?" I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. Inside, the living room was buzzing. Glasses clinking, laughter spilling across the hallway, a mix of perfumes and colognes floating through the air like status symbols. The kind of party where everyone smiles a little too wide and stands just a bit straighter when the door opens. Kayla was in the middle of it all, perfectly dressed, hair immaculate, laughing with a confidence so sharp it could cut glass. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, and she made a beeline across the room. "Cass," she squealed, hugging me tight, her voice syrupy sweet. "Finally. I thought you were gonna ghost again." I forced a smile. "Wouldn't miss it." She let go quickly, already distracted by someone calling her name from the bar setup. Typical. Always the star of her own show. But as I stood there, soaking in the noise, the movement, the attention, I felt like a stranger in my own skin. The lights felt too bright. The air too thick. And deep in my chest, the baby fluttered, as if sensing my tension. I'd spent nearly an hour getting dressed that evening, not to look good, but to disappear. The loose, forest green maxi dress draped low enough to hide the curve that had begun to swell under my ribs. I'd paired it with shapewear that pulled me in just enough to pass for a woman who'd maybe eaten a few too many late-night pizzas, not a pregnant one. A scarf helped frame my face, distracting from the softening lines and slight puffiness I couldn't quite conceal anymore. I even dabbed a little extra blush, hoping to make the glow look intentional. The whole evening was a balancing act, smile just enough, keep my posture straight, never rest a hand on my stomach. A single wrong move could blow the whole illusion. And for a while, it worked. Until someone saw what I'd been trying to hide. I just slipped away to the quietest corner I could find, an armchair near the fireplace, half hidden behind a decorative plant and a stack of untouched wine glasses. My feet were already starting to ache, and my lower back throbbed in that familiar, stubborn way. I closed my eyes for a moment, just to breathe. Then came a voice, soft and playful. Cassie Monroe, glowing like a honeymoon bride. I opened my eyes to see Aunt Denise lowering herself into the chair beside me, a glass of Merlot in one hand, the other already reaching for mine. I laughed, too quickly. It's just the lighting in here. She squinted at me. Lighting doesn't make your cheeks rounder and your arms fuller, sweetie. Don't even try me. My stomach dropped. I tried to play it off, joked about indulging in pasta, but Aunt Denise had raised 3 kids. She didn't guess. She knew. Her smile widened as she leaned closer. Are you? I looked around, panicked. No one else was watching. I nodded, barely. She gasped, clasping both my hands in hers. Oh my God, Cassie. You're pregnant. Please, I whispered, pulling her hands down. Not yet. I haven't told anyone. Not even Mom. We want to wait. But she was already rising from her seat, glass swaying, eyes sparkling. Denise, I hissed, half standing. Please. Don't. This is Kayla's night. She patted my shoulder. This is a family night. Don't worry, honey. They'll be thrilled. And with that, she disappeared into the crowd. It happened in seconds. The music faded just enough for her voice to break through. Everyone, can I get your attention for a second? I just got the most beautiful news. Every head turned. Conversations dropped. And then her hand lifted, finger pointing directly at me. Our Cassie is pregnant. A pause. Then the room exploded. Gasps. Cheers. Someone dropped their wine glass in surprise. People rushed toward me with outstretched arms. My mom was crying before she even reached me, hugging me like I'd just come back from war. My dad clapped Luke on the back like he'd hit a grand slam. There were hands on my shoulders, my belly, my face. I couldn't breathe. Luke looked at me, startled but smiling, assuming I'd planned this. And across the room, Kayla stood completely still. She didn't clap. She didn't move. She just stood there, near the kitchen island, holding her cocktail like it was the only thing tethering her to the floor. Her mouth was smiling, tight, perfect, but her eyes weren't. She didn't blink. She didn't walk over. She just kept watching me, not with joy or surprise, but with something colder. Something unreadable. I tried to meet her gaze, offer a silent apology. But she looked through me, like I wasn't even there. And in that moment, I knew something had cracked. And it wasn't just between us. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Maybe Kayla was just tired. Maybe she was overwhelmed with everyone being there. It was her night, after all. She had every right to want the spotlight, and every reason to feel slighted that it had suddenly veered away from her. But as the party wore on, it became harder to pretend I didn't see the shift in her. She stopped mingling. Her smile became thinner, tighter, like she was holding her breath through every congratulations that wasn't meant for her. And while the rest of the family passed around champagne flutes and shared old baby stories, Kayla leaned against the kitchen counter, drink in hand, eyes trained on me like I was some exhibit behind glass. I tried to avoid her, stayed close to Luke, made polite rounds, laughed at stories I didn't really hear. I offered to help Aunt Denise in the kitchen just to step out of the spotlight. I even considered leaving early, faking fatigue, slipping out before things got weird. But every time I glanced back, Kayla was watching. Not smiling. Not talking. Just watching. And when I finally excused myself to use the upstairs bathroom, I felt her presence behind me like a shadow. I had just stepped out of the bathroom, still adjusting the scarf that had shifted slightly during the evening, when I saw her standing at the top of the stairs. Waiting. "Hey," I said gently, hoping for something normal. "Are you really pregnant?" she asked, arms crossed, voice flat. I blinked. "Of course I am, Kayla. Why would I lie about something like that?" She didn't answer right away. She took a slow sip of her drink, then said, "You didn't even tell Mom. Or me. You expect me to believe this isn't just some attention stunt?" My heart skipped. We were waiting until we felt ready. That's all. Her jaw tightened. "Of course you get to wait. Everything just falls into place for you, doesn't it? While I'm out here putting my life back together from scratch, you're secretly growing a whole damn baby like it's no big deal." "That's not fair," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You know what I've been through. This wasn't easy for us." She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Yeah? Well, maybe this one won't last either. Like the last two." Her words hit like a slap. My vision blurred, heat rising to my face. "Don't you dare say that." She stepped closer, eyes flashing. "Why not? You stole tonight from me, Cass. Just like you always do. You could have waited a week, but no, you had to show up glowing, hiding your bump like you wanted us to beg." I shook my head, stunned. "I didn't ask for any of this. Aunt Denise." "Save it," she cut me off. "You got your moment. Congrats. Now get out of my face." I turned to walk away, pulse pounding. I didn't realize she'd followed me until it was too late. I didn't make it 3 steps before her voice hit me from behind. "Maybe it'll end like the last ones," she said. "Maybe it's not even real." I froze. The hallway suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were pressing in. "Excuse me?" I asked, barely able to turn around. Kayla leaned against the doorframe, arms folded like she hadn't just gutted me with a sentence. "It's convenient, don't you think? You disappear for a few months, show up looking tired, keep secrets, and suddenly you're the center of attention again. Right when I finally get something good." I stared at her. "You think I made this up for sympathy?" "I think," she said slowly, "you like being the broken one. The one people whisper about. Miscarriages, struggling to get pregnant, oh poor Cassie. It's your whole brand." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. "You're not well, Kayla. And I am done with this." I turned. One hand on the stair rail, my other instinctively resting over the gentle swell of my belly. I took 1 step forward, and then I felt her behind me again. There was no hesitation. No warning. Just pressure, firm, deliberate, at the center of my back. My balance tipped. I reached for the railing again, but my hand slipped off the smooth wood. Time didn't just slow, it shattered. My body twisted, weight pulling forward, gravity turning cruel. All I could think was protect the baby. I curled inward as I fell, arms shielding my belly, knees collapsing. I hit the 2nd step hard. Then the 3rd. My wrist cracked under the weight of the landing. Everything went white. Pain screamed through my body, ribs, spine, head, but it was the silence that terrified me most. For 1 terrible second, I couldn't hear anything. Then it came rushing back. A gasp. Footsteps. Glass shattering in the kitchen below. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. My arm bent wrong, my stomach tight with dread. I didn't know if the baby was okay. I didn't even know if I was okay. Above me, I saw Kayla peeking down from the top of the stairs. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stared, her hand still resting on the wall. Screaming. I don't know who started it, maybe my mother, maybe Luke, but suddenly the house erupted. Feet thundered against the floor. Faces loomed above me, blurry and frantic. Someone was yelling Kayla's name, over and over. My mom dropped to her knees beside me, babbling nonsense through tears. Luke pushed past them all and scooped me into his arms like I weighed nothing. "Call an ambulance," he shouted. "Now." I heard my name. Heard crying. Heard my father shouting at Kayla, asking, "Did you push her?" But I couldn't speak. My wrist throbbed. My stomach felt tight, foreign. Like something was wrong. I locked eyes with Luke. And all I could say was, "The baby, please. Just check the baby." Then the lights in the room blurred. And I let go. The ceiling lights buzzed softly above me when I opened my eyes. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The air smelled sterile. My mouth was dry. My body ached in places I didn't even know could hurt. But the sharpest pain, by far, came from my right wrist, burning and hot, like the bone itself had splintered and was still screaming. I tried to sit up, but the world swayed. A monitor beeped beside me, steady and sharp. Then I remembered. The stairs. The fall. Kayla's voice. The baby. I shot up too fast, gasping, clutching my stomach with my good hand, and winced as fresh pain lanced through my side. A nurse appeared instantly, soothing me back against the pillows. "Easy, honey. You're okay. You're in the ER. Your husband's just outside. Let's take this slow." "No," I whispered, voice cracking. "The baby. Please. Is my baby okay?" The nurse gave me a soft, reassuring smile. "Let me get your doctor." They ran a fetal Doppler first. The technician said something calm and clinical, but I couldn't hear a word over the pounding in my ears. And then, there it was. That sound. Fast, rhythmic, unmistakable. The heartbeat. I burst into tears, unable to stop them. Luke came into the room seconds later, and when he saw the look on my face, he already knew. The doctor confirmed everything soon after. No sign of placental abruption. No internal bleeding. Just a fractured wrist, a couple bruised ribs, and a swollen ankle. The baby? Safe. For the first time since I hit the ground, I felt like I could breathe. Luke stood by my bed, silent at first. But the tension in his body was impossible to ignore. His jaw clenched so tightly I could hear the grind of his teeth. His fists curled and uncurled as if he couldn't decide whether to break something or hold me tighter. "She pushed you," he said flatly. I nodded. "She could have killed you. She could have killed our child." I reached for his hand with my good one. "I don't think she meant to." "Cassie," he cut in, voice sharp but low. Don't defend her." He paced once, then turned back. "I want to press charges. I want her arrested, Cassie. This doesn't go away." "I know," I whispered. "I know." His expression softened, but the fire didn't leave his eyes. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, then gently kissed the bump under the blanket. "We're going to protect you. Both of you. I swear." For the first time in hours, I believed him. Because I had nothing left to give. And he still had fight. They showed up the next morning. I heard their voices before I saw their faces, my mother's fluttery pitch, my father's low murmurs of concern, both soaked in artificial calm. Luke stepped into the hallway to intercept them, but my mom pushed past him gently with that tight, urgent smile she always wore in crisis. The one that said, "Let me handle this." "Cassie, sweetheart," she said, rushing to my bedside. "Thank God you're okay." I nodded, too exhausted to pretend. My dad followed her in, nodding in that silent, stern way he always did when words got complicated. Luke stayed by the door, arms crossed. Mom sat at the edge of my bed, took my hand gently, the uninjured one. "The nurses said the baby's okay," she said softly. "That's all that matters, right?" "That and the fact your other daughter pushed me down a staircase," I said, watching her eyes. She flinched but recovered fast. She didn't mean to, Cass. She told us she was drunk, that she was just following behind you too closely. It was an accident. You two were arguing. She pushed me, I snapped. She admitted it. She said I was stealing her spotlight and shoved me down the stairs. My mom's lips pressed into a tight line. She's not well. Dad finally spoke. Cassie, she made a mistake. A terrible one. But she's your sister. She's still family. I stared at them, mouth dry. She could have killed me. Killed the baby. And she's devastated, Mom insisted. She hasn't stopped crying since. She doesn't remember what happened. Please don't ruin her life over this. Luke took a step forward. Ruin her life? But my mother didn't look at him. She only looked at me. I know you're angry, she said carefully. But if you go through with pressing charges, this will stay on her record forever. You know what that could do to her job, her future. She swallowed, and for a second, I thought she might cry. We've talked about it, your father and I. And we need you to understand, if you go through with this, we won't be able to support you in it. I blinked. Support me? Dad spoke now. We'll have to cut contact. Kayla's already hurting, and we can't have you dragging her through court. My chest tightened. You're saying if I press charges? You're out, Mom said, voice trembling. You're out of the family. We'll disinherit you. We're begging you, Cassie, don't do this. The silence that followed was so still, it felt like time itself had stopped. And in that stillness, something inside me finally broke. I waited until they left the room before I cried. Not soft, not polite tears, but sharp, angry sobs that racked through my chest and made my side ache with each breath. Luke sat beside me, rubbing slow circles across my back, letting me fall apart in peace. I wasn't mourning just the fall. I was mourning the loss of something I hadn't even realized I'd still been holding onto, the illusion that my family would choose me. That after everything, they'd put their arms around me and say, "We've got you. We're sorry." But they didn't. They chose her. Again. And something in me, something small and tired and still desperate for approval, finally let go. They didn't have to cut me out. Because I was already walking away. I made the call 2 days later. The hospital had already filed an incident report. All I had to do was confirm it, put my name on it, give my statement, and let the system take over. Still, I hesitated. Not because I didn't believe Kayla deserved consequences. But because I knew the second I said yes, everything would change. No more pretending we were just two sisters who'd had a bad night. No more tiptoeing around old wounds. This was a line I couldn't uncross. The officer was calm, professional. He asked if I was sure. "I'm sure," I said, voice flat. "I want to press charges." Luke squeezed my hand the entire time, never letting go. Later that day, we met with a lawyer to start the paperwork. Battery. Assault. Endangerment of an unborn child. It sounded so cold on paper. But it was real. It had happened. And I wasn't going to be silent just because it made everyone uncomfortable. They picked her up that evening. I didn't watch. I didn't check the reports or scroll for photos or ask for the details. But the texts started coming fast, from cousins, extended family, even friends I hadn't heard from in months. Some were supportive. Most weren't. "You really called the cops on your sister? She didn't mean it. You're blowing this out of proportion." But I also got messages from people I never expected. Luke's cousin wrote, "I wish I had your courage. My own brother hurt me once, and no one stood up for me. You did the right thing." Kayla spent one night in holding before being released on bail, paid for by my parents, of course. Then came the court dates. The hearings. The waiting. She pled no contest. Her lawyer, also hired by my parents, worked out a plea deal, 6 months probation, mandatory anger management, and a record that would only stay sealed if she stayed clean. My mom didn't speak to me again after that. My dad sent one cold message: "We hope you're proud of yourself." I wasn't proud. I was heartbroken. But I was also free. The morning after the hearing, Luke sat beside me at the kitchen table, laptop open. "We're getting a restraining order," he said. I didn't argue. He filled out most of the paperwork, while I answered questions between sips of ginger tea. It wasn't just about Kayla showing up, it was about making sure she couldn't. We added my name, Luke's, and the baby's, covering both current and future protection. By the end of the week, it was official. She couldn't come within 100 feet of us. No calls. No contact. No exceptions. It was the first time since the fall that I felt safe. Because now, silence wasn't fear. It was peace. The knock came just as I was settling into the couch, baby asleep against my chest, Luke pouring us both tea in the kitchen. It was dusk, the sky outside slipping into soft orange, and for a few rare minutes, the house was quiet. 3 soft knocks. Then a pause. Then 2 more. I knew that knock. It was the one my mother used when she didn't want to seem pushy, just present. I stood slowly, heart already in my throat, and pulled the door open with my free hand. There they were. My mother in a pastel sweater set, my father in his weekend golf jacket. She held a foil balloon that read "Welcome Baby Boy." And a massive teddy bear that looked like it cost more than my hospital bill. My father had a bottle of wine tucked under his arm and a practiced smile on his face, like he was greeting dinner guests. "Cassie," my mom beamed, already stepping forward. "We heard the news. We had to come. Not how are you? Not can we talk? Not I'm sorry. Just, we had to come." They were already halfway up the porch steps before I could even process what was happening. "I brought your favorite rose," my father said proudly, like that would cancel out 6 months of silence. "And this bear," Mom added, holding it up. "Isn't he just perfect for the nursery? Oh, we can't wait to see him. Where's the little guy? Sleeping?" Behind me, I heard Luke's footsteps grow louder. He came to the door slowly, shoulders squared, eyes locked on them. Protective didn't even begin to describe the look on his face. My mother's smile faltered a little when she saw him. Luke didn't speak right away. He just stepped between me and the door, then filled the doorway completely. "You shouldn't be here," he said flatly. "Oh, Luke, come on," my mom said with a nervous laugh. "Let's not do this. It's a happy day. Your son is here." "Our son," Luke corrected. "And you don't get to show up with a teddy bear and pretend the last 6 months didn't happen." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You stood by while your daughter pushed my pregnant wife down the stairs," he said. "Then you tried to manipulate her into silence. You threatened to cut her off. And now you want to be grandparents?" My father tried to cut in. "We're just trying to move forward." Luke didn't budge. "You don't get to move forward without owning what's behind you." "We were trying to protect both our daughters," my mother snapped, her tone finally cracking. "No," Luke said. "You were protecting the one who hurt someone. You let her cry on your shoulder while Cassie lay in a hospital bed, terrified our son was dead." There was a long, heavy pause. "We didn't come to fight," my dad said. "We came to be family again." "And where was that family when Cassie was bleeding into a gurney?" Luke asked. My mother's eyes shimmered with tears, but there was something else behind them, that familiar guilt-trip glint. "I'm her mother," she whispered. "You can't just erase me." Luke turned slightly, looking back at me. "Cass," he said. "Do you want me to handle this? Or do you want to say it yourself?" I stepped forward, heart pounding, our son still asleep in my arms. My mother's eyes went straight to the baby, lighting up with that desperate, wistful spark I'd seen 1,000 times before. Only this time, it didn't move me. It disgusted me. "You didn't lose a daughter," I said. "You gave one away." They both blinked. You chose Kayla. When she lied, when she hurt me, when she endangered my child, you chose her. Every time. That's not fair, Mom said quickly. We were scared. We didn't know what. No, I cut in. You knew. You just didn't care. Not enough. My father tried one last plea. Cassie, come on. Don't keep your child from his grandparents. I looked down at the baby in my arms. I won't keep him from his family, I said softly. But you're not that anymore. Then I stepped back and closed the door. Not hard. Not loud. Just, final. There are things you survive that change you forever. Falling down those stairs broke my wrist, but it shattered something deeper inside. Not because of the pain. Not even because of the fear. But because of the silence that came after. The silence from the people I loved most. The silence that screamed louder than any apology that never came. You think family will protect you. That no matter how messy things get, they'll take your side when it really matters. But I learned something else. Family is only as strong as the people willing to stand with you when the world goes quiet. And sometimes, the ones who share your blood are the first to abandon you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to say I healed from what happened. That word feels too neat, too clean. But I survived. I carried a child through pain and betrayal and fear, and I brought him into a world where I promise he'll never wonder if he's wanted. Luke and I built something from the ashes. Not a perfect life, but an honest one. And that's enough. Blood doesn't make you safe. Loyalty does. The truth is, Kayla didn't just push me down the stairs. She pushed me out of the fantasy I'd been clinging to, the idea that love, without accountability, could be enough. That history meant loyalty. That pain could be swallowed and forgotten in exchange for peace. But silence is betrayal. And love without respect is just control dressed in sentiment. My parents called me cruel for pressing charges. But you know what's cruel? Telling your daughter to forgive someone who could have killed her child, just because the person who did it happens to be family. I don't regret what I did. I regret all the years I kept quiet just to keep the peace. Sometimes, standing up for yourself means standing alone. But I'd rather stand in the truth with no one beside me, than sit at a table full of people who call that love. If your sister pushed you while you were pregnant, and your family defended her, would you forgive? Would you hold your tongue and let it slide for the sake of peace? Or would you walk away, knowing full well it means leaving behind everything you thought was solid? That's what I had to decide. And maybe your answer would be different. But for me, the moment they chose to excuse violence over accountability, the decision was already made. I didn't lose a family. I realized they'd never really seen me in the first place. The evening breeze was warm as I stepped onto the porch, baby cradled in one arm, coffee in the other. Luke followed close behind, pulling the door shut with his foot, then settling beside me on the swing. Our son stirred gently, his little fists curling near his face as he let out a soft breath. He looked so peaceful, wrapped in blue cotton and moonlight. For a moment, no one said anything. Just the rustle of leaves. The creak of the swing. The quiet comfort of being exactly where we belonged. Behind us, the door stayed closed, the kind of closed that wasn't temporary. Not locked in anger. Just, no longer open to pain. Luke reached over and brushed a strand of hair from my face. You okay? I nodded, eyes on the sleeping bundle in my arms. Yeah. I really am. The camera pulls back slowly, rising above the porch, catching the golden light spilling from the windows, the distant hum of a peaceful night. In the frame, a family, small, quiet, whole. And a closed door behind them that no longer needs to be knocked on. Because what's inside? It's already enough. And more than they ever gave.